Welcome to my book Fommercial Part 2. Question number 1. Describe and reflect upon your assignments for this course. Think about how each assignment made an impact on your thinking about education today. And here are some questions that I also answered. I really enjoyed each assignment in this course. Each week would be on a different topic, and each week I found myself questioning the way that I've done things or things that I didn't even do that I should have. And the biggest thing that I gained from the assignments was when we brought up color blindness. And for so long, I seriously looked at my class as just a group of all kids, not really thinking about the color of their skin. But by me just lumping everyone together, I was doing a disservice to everyone. Each person is different, and that should be celebrated. We can learn so much from each other. These assignments, especially our philosophy assignment, it definitely changed my outlook on my personal philosophy into being more culturally responsive, not only in my classroom, but in everyday life. Our second assignment we did was the react, relate, respond. I like how we got the perspective from all different types of groups of people. And my reaction to the documentary was a mix of emotions, having students share their feelings that they didn't matter and that they were just uh, on the school to prison track. That was truly heartbreaking. Our education system is failing our children, which in turn, our society as a whole. I think the message that resonated with me was that it's not going to take just one person, it's going to take a group of people to make a difference. Our third assignment was equitable and just education. And I kind of struggled with this assignment. It took me a while to complete. And looking back, I think it was difficult because the topics I didn't know a lot about. So therefore, I learned a lot. I didn't realize all the issues that surrounded multicultural education. One thing that made me think was the racial achievement gap in the United States. And that talks about the educational disparities between minority students and Caucasian students. And it manifests itself in a variety of ways. African American and Hispanic students are more likely to receive lower grades, score lower on standardized tests, drop out of high school, and are less likely to enter and complete college. So when we say education is equal, does that ring true for minorities? The last assignment was the Argue and Award, and this was a fun assignment. I really actually liked it. I could reflect on things that I've learned this semester, and I created an award for someone that I thought portrayed a positive, um, a diverse awareness. I liked this because it made me focus on someone that I'd actually known, and it really made me realize what she did differently to stick out from everyone else. And doing this, it made me want to be more like her and how I changed things throughout my classroom to fit into that mold. So, all of these assignments were so beneficial and forced me to really reflect on my teaching and overall become a better teacher and a person in general. All right, question 2. To describe and reflect on how the online discussions made an impact on your thinking about such to support teaching and learning. All right, so discussions. When it came to the discussions, I feel like that's where I had the most growth. Each topic I really enjoyed learning about, and more than a few times I felt pretty ignorant to some of the issues surrounding multiculturalism. In each of the discussions, I was able to look back on my learning and not only post the parts that moved me, but I was also able to share my feelings and relate it to my own personal experiences or how I could apply information in my classroom life. Some of the topics that I read I had to read a few times to make sure I was grasping the material. My favorite discussion was probably, I think it was discussion 5. It was a documentary, and it was things that we don't say about race that are true. And That by far was my favorite. Even though we really only had to watch a 30 minutes or so, I could not stop watching, and I finished the whole thing. Trevor Williams, which was the guy kind of leading us through the documentary, he had talked about unwritten rules that he came up with about being Black within the first 7 years of his life. And um, there was a bombing, I think it was in Paris, I think, I can't, this was all back over in Europe. But he had stated that we are sleepwalking our way back to segregation and that people prefer segregation. And that kind of really struck with me because it made me really think and about something that probably I never really had thought about. Um, and he had talked about the sunset segregation. And the thought behind that was, we can work together. It's okay to be together. But when the sun sets and it's time to go home, people work together, but they don't want to be neighbors. And that people tend to live where people like them live. So I found that was so interesting because I never really thought about that way. Because I mean, we are all in school together, we're working together, we're eating together at restaurants, but at night we have our own section of town, and we really just hang out with people that are like us and eat with others that like to eat the foods that we like. And as much as I wanted to say it wasn't true, it kind of is a fact. Looking back, it was hard for me to keep a discussion going among my peers. By the time I'd finish mine, I would read a few others and respond or not have too much time except for to agree. So a lot of times I wouldn't respond, but I would have the conversation, I guess, in my head. But by far, that was my favorite documentary that we did. All right, our third question is to think and reflect on online discussions and identify 3 technologies or technology-based tools that you believe future students should be familiar with and know about in support of their growth and development as professionals, and why. So with this course in particular, technology is extremely important. And so for this class, I think CourseDen on the UWG page, Google and all of its components, and just be able to navigate the university library online. And these were things that I constantly used while taking this course. First of all, knowing your way around CourseDen is extremely important. This semester is my first semester in my master's, and my first one ever using CourseDen like this. And even though all my classes did a scavenger hunt or a review of how CourseDen works, it took me some time to figure out. Once I got a hang of it, I totally adapted and love the process. But yeah, it took me a little bit to get over finding things or things being posted in multiple spaces. I really enjoyed the checklist that some teachers would provide. All right, so that was the CourseDen. Google. Google is a program that is such a powerful tool. I love how it is all integrated together and on the Google Drive. So you don't ever have to worry about losing your work. It will just automatically save it. And I love that you can collaboratively work on documents together if you're doing group work. So that's a big plus for me, is being able to, meet together as a group, open up the same file, and everybody can type and go forth. That's good. And last was the UWG library, and that's just really important to learn how to navigate. So I think that's a great place to find a lot of information and not have to actually go into the library. So there's a lot of great resources. Um, let's see. So it talked about technology in every classroom and what might be in a backpack. And I know that in a lot of classrooms, students have Chromebooks, or they'll have bring your own technology, which might be a cell phone or a tablet. And all of these tools can enhance learning and keep students engaged. I believe that technology is only going to be more and more common in classrooms in the future. And technology can connect people from different places to each other, and it puts the world just right inside your hands. So it can be used as a tool for good, but it also could be used as not so good. So teaching our kids at a young age, I think, to use technology for good is a great thing. When you think of this course, what positive dispositions did you learn or have reinforced? I believe that I gained many positive dispositions. I think that the most important one is to be culturally responsive at all times and to lead by example. We're faced by, we have a whole classroom full of diversity right in front of us. And from all the assignments and readings this semester, I really, it made me reflect again on what kind of teacher that I want to be and how I need to work towards that in my classroom. And as a teacher and a person, this course just pushed me to be uncomfortable sometimes and to have uncomfortable conversations because either I wasn't aware of certain issues or I just didn't realize that I had a bias or an unwritten stereotype rule in my head about other people. So dispositions can play a huge role in our role as educators. And having a positive disposition not only affects you, but it also affects your students and your coworkers, so the teachers around you. If others asked you what you learned from this course, what would you tell them in terms of content, applications, and attitude? So, when it comes to this course, I have already told so many people about it. This has been my favorite course that I've taken in a really long time. After every weekly topic discussion, I would have the same discussion with my husband, and it was neat hearing his views on things and watching him realize what he was doing or not doing in his work to recognize cultural differences. Learning about someone's culture can help you understand why they do the things they do or why they think the way they think, and realizing that everyone's different and you can actually celebrate that. A big thing for me would be to recheck stereotypes that I have of people, sometimes without knowing it. Um, One example would be, I guess, grouping people into if they're Muslim, then somewhere they must be a terrorist. And that's not true. So my eyes have really been open, and I feel that I have had a lot of personal growth during this course. Question 6. What aspects of the course did you find challenging and how did you manage them? What kinds of help did you receive? Um, I Something that I found challenging was keeping up with responding to discussions with my classmates. I wanted to respond, but sometimes I felt maybe that the response wasn't enough to even put my 2 cents in. And also, at first, I was trying to, um, I guess, be politically correct and always give the politically correct answer, and got away from that by posting my true feelings and my ideas, and just to get over that maybe somebody won't agree with what I'm saying, but I had to get it out there. And once I had someone respond to a discussion post, I was a little concerned about, and then they stated how glad they were that I posted my true feelings. And it let me know that this was a safe place. And if that we have to be real and we have to be upfront with ourselves if we want to grow and actually change. So when it comes to our professional obligation to educate all children, we have to take our students and their cultures into consideration and celebrate our diversity and learn from each other while we're also being culturally sensitive in the forefront of our minds. What have you learned about yourself as a learner? And what will you take from this course into your future as a professional educator? I learned a few things about myself during this course. I learned that taking notes while I read or while I'm watching an assigned video really helps me understand better what I'm learning. I like to stop after each page or after, a few minutes, and I will write a summary of what I just read. And if I'm having trouble coming up with something, I reread it because I must not have understood what I was reading. So, again, I'll also take with me my self awareness when it comes to my class and stop being colorblind and seeing each child for actually who they are and where they come from and how they can bring that something special into our classroom. Technology is a game changer for everyone, even students in our classes. We have the world right there in the palm of our hands. Now, with technology, it's so easily accessible. And knowing that our students are on technology at home, playing games, watching TV on demand, it makes it important for us as teachers to find ways to incorporate technology to keep them engaged and excited about learning, because they have all of these graphics and excitement things, right in front of them. So we have to find out as educators how we can bring that into the classroom for them to learn. What surprised you about your course experience, and what did you dread on the first day of class that you are glad you did? So the first thing, I guess the uh, biggest thing that surprised me was being exposed to things that were always, no-nos to talk about, or, just issues in education when it comes to being culturally sensitive and inclusive of everyone. Um, Also, I guess on the first day when we got our first week assignment, I freaked out a little bit because there was so much assigned reading and I was overwhelmed. Um, but when I started to read the information, it was so incredibly interesting that I could not put the book down, and I couldn't wait for the next assignment, even though I knew what chapters we'd probably be reading. I just couldn't wait to figure out what we're going to be learning about. Um, it's an awesome textbook. And this is the first textbook that I have ever honestly read cover to cover. And I'm so glad that I did. This book, I'm definitely going to keep this one, and I'm going to keep it on my shelf, probably at school. And every once in a while, pull it out or just have it where I can see it, just as a little reminder of all of the things that I have learned this semester. Imagine for a moment you were called upon to teach this course. What would you do differently to teach the class that will make it more interesting, challenging, educational, and fun? The only thing that I would change about this class, if I was the teacher, would be the discussions. Maybe instead of always having them, how it's written like a paper, I would have loved to maybe have had a few virtual discussions on Google Meets, so that there could be back and forth actual conversations. I feel that there would have been a lot more dialogue than the written responses to each other. And I don't know, maybe have each student turn in a summary of what they learned, and then once a week have like a virtual meeting so that we could discuss and learn from each other. What did you learn about online learning or technology enhanced learning that informs your beliefs about the future of education in general? So, with this being my very first semester for my master's and it being fully virtual, I was kind of nervous. It took me a week or so to figure out what I was doing, and making sure that I wasn't going to miss a deadline or an assignment. But other than that, I think that learning online can be extremely effective, but it really depends on the teacher and the student. I found that I'm doing well with the teachers that were very organized. They had everything laid out and when it needed to be completed, and they had checklists. And this way, as a student, I was able to prepare and I could set my own pace at which I needed to have the work completed. If organization was not a strong attribute of a student, I think they would struggle with time management of a completely online course. And I really liked, again, the checklist. I loved some courses had a checklist and you were able to check off assignments as you complete them. So I knew that I wasn't missing anything. And it really motivated me to keep going and, cross off the assignments on my list after I've completed them. Going forward, I think if I do virtual or a technology-based lesson, I would consider giving my students a checklist So they would have, to complete all of the components to help them go through. But again, I absolutely loved this course, and it really took me by surprise how much I've learned. And I just want to say thank you for all that you have put into it.